Hello friends of Golf Course Quality Fertilizer, and here we are again at the Turf Research Center at Earthway. This is the Golf Course Quality Fertilizer Turf Research Center. This is now week 8, okay? So we seeded it on August 12th, and here we are November 9th. So we're almost a full 2 months into it, and this is our first plot. This is the turf type tall fescue plot here, this square. It's getting harder to see now that it's really starting to fill in and grow, but you can see a discern line right there. These are the buffer lines in between, 5-foot buffer lines between each plot. And so this one here, I mean, you might as well just call it a full lawn now. I mean, here it is. This is brand new 8-week-old turf, and now it's really thick and mature. Definitely old enough for me to do some spraying, so I'm going to come through and do some cleanup of some weeds. This one came in so well. I mean, it really doesn't have that many weeds in it at all. A couple dandelions here and there. We'll get those sprayed out now that we're mature enough. Really excited about it. The color, this is one of my favorite turfs nowadays. It's a little bit wider blade, not too bad. One thing you will notice about turf type tall fescue is that it keeps a deeper green color deeper into the canopy, so after you mow it, you don't have this yellowish look sometimes when it's taken a while to mow it. You also notice that around edges, near sidewalks and spots like that where it gets hot, the blades might be, we got vehicles going by, the blades might be a little thicker in those areas, so it tends to widen out to kind of defend itself. One of the advantages of this plot, and we'll see it in the spring, is this one doesn't go to seed, and all the other like bluegrass and ryegrasses tend to go to seed. This one just doesn't get tall enough to be able to go to seed. Other ones can seed at a lower height, and so I like that. It's not exhausting all this energy going to seed, and then it has this like down period before your mid-June summer application of fertilizer. So I like that. So it's a little bit more consistent. I have noticed that turf type tall fescue tends to get more snow mold, but snow mold is typically cosmetic, and so if you go out there and kind of just give it a light raking or fluff it up with your blower, it will, recover itself fairly quickly. And so we'll get to see that kind of stuff in the spring. That's the neat thing about having these plots. We can do direct comparisons. All right, now here's this advanced Kentucky bluegrass. Now, since it took longer to grow in and still extremely fast, I mean, we're talking, this is 8 weeks and it's mature bluegrass now. It's a little bit shorter. You can tell it's a little bit more necrotic too for some reason. Well, I mean, I know that the turf type tall fescue doesn't require as much fertilizer, so that could be why this one here is a little necrotic now. Probably needs another fertilizer hit soon. And we do see some dollar spot down here. We've had to keep it kind of wet. A little bit of dollar spot breaking out. It's going to get too cold for that here real soon. Weather's supposed to really break after Friday, and so I won't have to worry about diseases in that sense. Maybe some cool season diseases, but I'll get some fur on this thing soon. It's a little bit depressed, and that's, I think, the nature of how this advanced bluegrass grows. Doesn't look so special now. Of course, right now the turf type tall fescue is outperforming this as far as aesthetics go, but we'll wait for the longevity and long run and see how this goes. But I am able to spray these weeds, and there's quite a few weeds in there, of course, because there was a lot more soil exposed longer than in the other turf plot, but we can spray them out. Here's the blue rye mix plot right here, and let's see if we see part of it's in the shade. That's gonna be interesting to see how the season goes with half of it kind of not really being full sun. And this is what you typically seed a lawn with. This is what all the home builders, they'll come in and have a guy put in this type of seed, and it's okay. You can see it's a little bit more necrotic than the turf type tall fescue. The perennial ryegrasses have a lot of issues in the future too, so we'll look at those. But it doesn't look bad. I mean, most people I think would be pleased with this situation if they didn't know the difference. And so it's okay. It's grown in, it's mature enough to spray. And then here we have the fourth plot, which is the advanced shade blend, which has a lot of fine fescues and chewing fescues and red creeping fescue, all kinds of finer fescues. One of the interesting things that I noticed is You know, it has 100% fine fescue in it, but there are some wider blade plants in here. We can see those, and I'm still a little confused on why. I'm pretty sure it's with the seed, because we did a really good job at keeping anything from growing back that used to be here. And they look like ryegrasses, but I didn't see any perennial rye varieties in that bag or annual rye, just fine fescue. So not exactly sure why those wider bladed ones, and it's pretty even throughout the whole entire plot, but I do see a lot of the fine fescues in here now. You can see it looks like hair down in here in between the really fine ones, if I can get a good sight of it here. The really fine blades in between these larger blades, those are the fine fescue. So it'll be interesting to see how this matures. Now, we had this kind of got weed-eated around this tree, which is good. It's good to have all these different things happen to turf while we're doing research, because then we can tell what happens when certain things are done to it. So it was scalped down pretty good around this, but I don't have control over that necessarily. So it'll be interesting to see how it can handle being beat up. I think it'll be fine. It'd be nice if the grass stays fairly decent, even up along this area here around the tree, so it has a good aesthetic look to it and not have dirt in there. So we might have to do some reseeding in some spots, we'll see. But this is it, the Turf Research Center, 8 weeks in. I tell you what, mid-August seeding is the way to go. If you want a lawn like this, snap, very little weed competition, mid-August, northern Indiana, fantastic. You know, the only thing you have to make sure of if you're doing a seeding like that, and you almost have to do bluegrass, regular bluegrass at that time to give it enough time to mature before winter comes, because bluegrass normally, not this one in particular, but normally takes 21 to 28 days to germinate, and so you have to do a bluegrass seeding mid-August, maybe beginning of August even. I would encourage you to do, because it takes so long to germinate. Now, in order to also have these kind of results, you also got to make sure you have an irrigation system, or at least make sure you're able to water the entire area or most of the area twice a day, 3 times a day, 15-20 minute cycles to keep that turf seed moist and germinate and continue it, and you'll get the best percentage of germination out of keeping it wet, at least for that first 2-3 weeks of germination time. Then you're going to back it off, where you're doing it just maybe once a day, and then 30 minutes, and then eventually every other day for an hour, and then eventually hopefully you get to a point where you're watering about 3/4 of an inch of watering on it, which is like 2 hours a cycle, once or twice a week. I've been able to get it down where I've watered this season in particularly, I only watered 7 times my whole lawn, but when I water it, I really soak it down, and that really encourages deep root growth and gets that stuff healthy and keeps the surface dry longer, and it doesn't get all those weird grasses and diseases and all kinds of fun stuff happen when you keep the yard too wet. So deep and infrequent, I'm going to say this all the time in lots of videos, that's how you want to water, and the grass will tell you when it needs more water. So when it needs it, that's when you soak her down. So let the grass tell you, because there's so many different variables in it: sun, air movement, types of soils, types of turf, so all different types of variables to tell you how long you can go without watering. But I tell you, a little bit of drought stress on grass is not a bad thing compared to staying wet. It just does not like to stay wet all the time. And so we're actually going to be shutting off the irrigation system for the rest of the season. I think we'll be fine. We're going to be in the mid to low 50s all next week, and it probably will continue on staying cool, and so we'll be fine. And there's rain events too, so we don't have to water this anymore with irrigation. And this is it, the Turf Research Center. Favorite plot right here, turf type tall fescue. What a gorgeous grass, so nice. 8 weeks old. Hello. All right, see you later. Bye.